Okay, so as I said, I wanted to do an interview with my personal trainer. So this is Brandon, and I'll kind of let him introduce himself and kind of talk about your experience with being a personal trainer and how you kind of got started with that.
Yeah, so my name is Brandon, like she said. I've been training for about 5 years now. I got into personal training in college. The passion started in high school when I played football. I wanted to win a couple of different titles for the football team. And that was what really sparked the interest. From there, I started competing my freshman year of college. So I've done 12 powerlifting meets since then. I currently have 3 state records in Virginia at the USPA, and I have a school record at Liberty University for 4 years for bench press.
Oh, wow.
After I kind of found it to be my passion, I wanted to share it with other people. So I started training the Monday after I graduated college. And then here I am 3.5 years later in Carolina, still doing what I love to do. So,
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so way more achievements in fitness than somebody who started working out like 2 months ago.
She's still making achievements. She's doing great. She's doing great.
He has to say that. The reason that I kind of wanted to interview you is I feel like a lot of people, one, can't afford personal training. It is kind of a luxury item, I would consider. So just right off the bat, are there any things from like what you see out there in the media and just like online that you think is a big misconception when it comes to like living a healthier lifestyle?
Yeah, I think one misconception is how quick you'll get the results. I think that we think it's going to be instant like everything else we have in life. It takes time and dedication to get those results.
Mm-hmm.
I think the price that comes with training can be a misconception, like seeing it as a luxury item, but thinking what the cost could be down the road when you have those health-related issues that you could have prevented earlier on.
That's definitely true.
I think it's definitely a big misconception. Then kind of go into like the dieting and stuff like that, the different styles of training. What's better, functional fitness? What's better, high intensity? Just getting active. Let's start there first, and let's look at what we eat. I think those are 2 big things that people will neglect that are key components towards the results they want.
Yeah, for sure. Because I know for myself, I tried keto, I tried Weight Watchers, I tried Atkins, I tried Slim Fast. Like I've literally tried anything that was out there that people were like, oh my God, I had all these awesome results. And then you see stuff like out there, like this stuff like Jared from Subway, like I ate Subway for however long and lost all this weight.
Right.
And people think like, oh, if I do this one thing, like if I change this one thing about my lifestyle, all these other things.
Yeah, there's not just one umbrella result or I guess option for everybody from the results.
Mm-hmm.
So him eating that Subway worked great for him. Sure, there's some other factors that played into it, but it doesn't mean if Kaden goes out and she eats Subway, she's gonna have the same results. If I go eat it, I'm at the same results. But
yeah, I don't think if I get a spicy Italian every day for the next year, it's gonna do great things for me.
It's a lot of sodium.
Just a little bit. Because like I know, like I'm a 22-year-old who's taking notice of like the way that health has affected me and like trying to make the changes now. But there are people who they're in their 40s and 50s and are just now deciding like, oh, I should probably do something about this.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for people like trying to start it earlier rather than later?
I mean, it's always easier to, keep up than catch up. That's something I try to live by in any aspect of life. So, just kind of get out there and do it before you end up to be 40, 50 years old and trying to catch up. We look at our lives now and how busy we are. I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. What's not going to slow down as you get older.
Mm-hmm.
So why not, get ahead of it now?
One of the biggest things, as we've already mentioned, is like the whole diet thing.
Right.
So when it comes to all the like fad diets out there, like what are your thoughts on fad diets in general? Are there some that you think are effective, less effective? Are all of them in general like ineffective?
I think fad diets are effective, but not for a longevity standpoint. Fad diets don't tend to be something you can maintain over a long period of time. So people that lose the weight from the fad diets tend to gain it back and some over time. I tend to lean more towards healthy eating guidelines. Hey, let's stick to lean meats, let's stick to the vegetables, let's stick to the fruits, let's watch the starches, let's cut back on some of the carbs. That's something we can maintain over a longer period of time, as opposed to having to count everything every day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a better viewpoint at it, as opposed to Weight Watchers or South Beach diet and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I tried keto for 3 months or something like that, and I saw what I would say, I wouldn't consider now results, but then I would have considered them results of an immediate few pound weight drop just from that different style of eating. But now I'm if I had kept doing that, I would have gained that weight back as soon as, like, if I tried to put even just like a potato into like my weekly diet or something like that.
And everyone's body is different. I mean, it comes down to your discipline level, like how disciplined you are to it, your enjoyment of it. I eat the same stuff all the time. I love chicken, I love salmon, so I'm fine with that. I don't even look at it as keto based. It's just what I enjoy eating. And everyone's body reacts differently. I've had clients that can have something as simple as grapes and it just throws their weight off because it's a sugary fruit. I've had some clients that would have a piece of cake every Sunday night and they still hit their weight goals every week. So everyone's body reacts differently.
Lucky people, lucky individuals.
And everyone's body reacts differently, but I think it's better to find like a more substantial weight loss tool as far as nutrition that you can maintain over a long period of time as opposed to a fad diet.
Yeah, I definitely think I see, like, now just from, like, working with you and just, like, really researching stuff now, not just, like, I saw this one article that said this and it was amazing.
Yeah. But you can find articles that say anything you want to find, and it's just, that's another misconception now, I've read this, I wonder if it works. Everyone's body reacts differently. I mean, some people's body react different to protein shakes, pre-workout mixes, different vitamins and stuff like that. But it's really finding what you can do to sustain and you see the results you want from it.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's something that, because of how many fad diets and different, like, eating styles and different, like, successes and failures that people have had, gets kind of thrown off by social media. Because if somebody sees something that they're like, this person lost 50 pounds on whatever, then everybody's sharing it. Everyone's like, I'm going to do this because that person did it.
Right.
So it's just, I always find that interesting because I'm like, people, all the time are like, we're all, like, individuals, but it's like, when you look at things like that, everyone doesn't want to be seen as individuals.
Right.
They're like, this worked for them, so it has to work for me.
Right. It doesn't always work that way.
For sure. So another thing I wanted to talk about is kind of more on the exercise side of it. So I know from personal experience and from my friends' experience and just people that I've seen is so many people, when they think of like, oh, I'm going to be healthier, they just think of cardio, because that's the thought of like, when you're losing weight, you're doing like cardio exercises like the elliptical, treadmill, biking, that sort of thing. So what are your thoughts on cardio in general, and then do you see an importance on like the weight training side?
So I'm not a big fan of cardio, and yes, I love the weight training, but I mean, it's kind of a blend of both. So when I look at cardio, I look at keeping it high intensity, more interval training. A lot of people don't like cardio, but I can hopefully convince those people that 2 or 3 minutes of it in bouts over time or different sets are going to be more enjoyable. So like things that we've done, like the core exercises, then we have the sled, we're pushing the sled up, hopping the row machine for 200-300 meters, pushing the sled back to those core exercises. I find it to be an enjoyable way of doing cardio with clients. Toe taps, the box jumps, the battle rope. That's one of your favorites too.
Oh yeah, love the battle rope. So anyone else has ever done that, guaranteed you feel the same.
Right. I'm sure you all love it also. So there's different ways that you can really incorporate that cardio into your workout. Now, if you're training for like an endurance sport, I would say, hey, we need to work on that mileage of the running, the distance kind of thing. Weight training, I think, is definitely important as well. I mean, we all can increase strength to a degree. It doesn't mean that you want to be a bodybuilder or a powerlifter, but I think it's important to do. I think it's important to strengthen those large muscles so that we can kind of increase that resting metabolic rate, so your body can burn fat with you doing less effort over time. So I think those are definitely kind of my outlooks on that. But the weight training, there's so many different ways you can go with it. I mean, things like using body weight or the TRX training. Then of course, like your free weights and things like that. I think it's important to incorporate all of that into a balanced program.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a particular reason why a lot of people out there don't think of weight training like immediately when they think of like the exercises that they're going to get like into exercising with?
Yeah, especially with my female clients, I think, oh, I'm going to get bulky, I'm going to look like a man. That's not that easy. The people that compete and that have that figure, they've been doing that forever. They've been training specifically for that. That's more of a competitive or progressive track. What we do is just strength training. So you're using resistance as a means of increasing your strength, as a means of decreasing percent body fat by increasing the muscle mass. So I think they had that perception, I'm going to get big, I'm going to get bulky, but it doesn't always happen. If you're keeping that rep range 12, 15 and higher, you're shooting for tone anyway. If I'm in that 8 to 10 rep range, then that's what I'm shooting for, that bulk or that strength kind of goal set.
Okay. I mean, that definitely makes sense, because I know like anybody that I talk to, unless they've had previous experience like with somebody who like has a more well-rounded like fitness idea, everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get on the bike for 45 minutes and it's gonna be this. And like I remember, as I told you before, about 2 or 3 years ago when I had like dropped 30 pounds, all I was doing was cardio, but I never felt weaker than like during that time because I was losing muscle as well as fat. So like I was liking what I saw in the mirror, but then not liking how I was feeling like throughout the day.
Yeah, agreed. And you know, if you're doing cardio for that long, I mean, that's a long period of time. I would cut that down to like 20 minutes and then shoot for that progression. If I'm on the treadmill, can I increase the incline? Can I increase the speed? What's the distance that I'm covering in 20 minutes? Can I cover more distance in that 20-minute time period? So always shooting for that progression, the variation if you're going to do, that endurance kind of training.
And then what advice would you give for people who are trying to say, like, how often should I be doing either during the week? Like, how often should they be weight training? How often should they be doing, like, more cardio-focused workouts during the week?
So, I mean, some of it depends on your goals, obviously. But I would say a 3-day minimum total. Like, at least, I should say. With that, if you can do both, I don't think you have to divide the cardio and the weight training. But I would say at least, 3 days a week of that solid workout, which could be strength training, mobility training, core training, cardio. And then throw in maybe 2 other days of just strictly cardio training.
I just think it's interesting, fitness, and something that you would think would be super easy about like just living like a healthy way to like live as long as you can and in like the best health that you can is such a concept that like people don't. It's so misconstrued by everything out there where you think like it's such a basic part of our life.
Yeah, it is. And it blows my mind sometimes. It's like it's almost an option to not want to be healthy. Like I have this discussion with my parents. I'm like, just do it. Just eat healthier. Like work out. Why wouldn't you want to feel better? But I think some of it is also we don't know how much better we can feel from that exercise until we start doing it. We don't understand like how much better we sleep, our energy levels, how they increase, how you just get around better. You don't know that until you experience it. Then you feel how bad you felt before. So I think people aren't, willing to step away and experience that. So.
Yeah, I can definitely say now from like being more dedicated to like the workouts that we're doing, being more dedicated with my eating and things like that. Like yesterday I was super sore from the workout that we did on Thursday. So I was like bummed because I was like, oh, I'm going to go work out. But I was like physically like it like hurt to like move around because we did like different things, like a different style of workout. And like before I would have been like, I don't want to do this anymore, like this is it, like I'm not going to go back. But now it's like, okay, I was working different muscle groups and like more like thought process was like going through my mind and less like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Because it's all about that progression, that variation standpoint. I mean, you're getting better with the exercises, so we have to switch it up on occasion. Kind of throw new things at you to see if you can, adapt to it. And you did. And you were sore, but it was worth it. It was a good workout. So
yeah. And then another thing I wanted to ask, kind of going back to the eating styles. So I feel like especially nowadays, and probably within the last couple of years, there's been a lot of more talk around the plant-based diet and like the benefits that people see from it, and like so many things saying like how bad like meat is for you and this, that, and the other. What's your thoughts on that when it comes to incorporating like healthy habits? Like, do you see a big difference in people who like are plant-based and not plant-based, or?
Yes and no. I mean, it just kind of varies. I know people that are just plant-based that are overweight. I know people that eat like me, meats and everything else, and they're fine. I think it depends on the person. I think, of course, getting away from things that, are GMO and things like that are good. Eating fully organic, maybe a good idea too. Going strictly plant-based, if that's what you like and you see results of doing it, then I'd say do it. But the thing with any kind of like nutrition trend, they always change. So like, vegetarian, that's good. And they'll say meat's okay. Keto is kind of under fire now because they're saying, well, you can eat what you want to eat, just keep your calories in a certain range. There's always these different like philosophies with exercise. I personally don't do full plant-based just because I like meat and I don't see any effects on my body that tell me to stop. I do try to get organic meats when I do shop, like steaks and chicken and things like that.
Getting them more like free range sort of things.
And you can notice the difference because at first I'm like, oh, organic, I don't really believe in it. But when I went from eating like non-organic chicken to organic, you can definitely taste the difference in it. First of all, they're not like huge breasts that are this big. They're like a normal sized chicken breast, and they just, it tastes different. It tastes cleaner, I think, as opposed to the other ones.
Yeah.
And those that have, that's not organic, typically get the options that have like, they're injected with those hormones and things like that, and we ingest those hormones into our system, And then, that's not what you want to have happen.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any kind of like cancer cells that can be mutated, they can grow from those different growth hormones that are injected in those meats.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to consider too.
Yeah, because I feel like there's so many things out there that, especially with like discussing like cancer being caused by food and things like that, it's like I feel like every year or two it's some other food item that they're like, this can cause cancer and this can cause cancer. And I'm like, I think it's just if you eat unhealthily or if you're eating like the wrong things, like that can cause a number of things. Like I don't think this one thing is like causing all of these problems.
Well, they're not being technically a cure to cancer. I think it's kind of hard to pinpoint what exactly causes it. Because if we knew what caused it, I think it'd be easier to find the cure. But yeah, I think it's a multitude of things, like you said. But I think just eating healthy, the lean meats, eating the vegetables, eating the greens, then you wouldn't see as many of those issues.
Mm-hmm.
We need overly processed foods, fast food. I mean, it's just, no wonder we have these issues we have as far as cancer and stuff.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that I think it's interesting that I've seen brought up a lot of times, especially in the different like food documentaries, is that a lot of times fast food is cheaper than going out and buying like healthy, organic, or even just like regular vegetables and meat and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of people, they're like, it's so much cheaper for me to go and get this $1 burger and a side of fries and a Coke, as opposed to going to the store and only being able to buy like one vegetable for that amount. Right,
and it's definitely cheaper. I feel like it's almost a punishment to want to eat healthy because it costs so much. But the thing is, it's cheaper in the long run.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm becoming insulin dependent in 20, 30 years because of how I eat now, is it really cheaper or is it worth it? And there's ways to still eat healthy and make it affordable. But yeah, I mean, fast food is cheap, it's quick, and you got 4 for $4 menu and stuff like that. You're never going to see organic foods on those kind of menus.
Yeah, no.
So that is definitely
one day.
Yeah,
if
one day.
we could get like an organic fast food place going, I think that'd be great.
That would be nice. That would be very nice. I mean, Chipotle is probably your closest option now, but that would be sweet.
But even with that, like I love Chipotle. Like you've seen my food journaling. I love Chipotle. Like having rice, beans, chicken. And some lettuce on there because I don't get like the sour cream, I don't get the salsa, that sort of thing. But it's like when you think of like how much you're eating at that time is I think the part that like I had to realize. I'm like, that's fine if like I didn't have lunch and I'm having dinner and like I'm having that, but I shouldn't.
On top of all of that, it's a lot.
And especially like how much rice is in there because they can say like, oh, it's this many calories and this amount of rice, but I'm like, every single person that goes through, they're not measuring
it's not
it.
the exact same serving, exactly. So it's hard to really pinpoint the exact amount. Yeah, I'd agree.
Because that was something that like I was realizing because I'm like, I was way more full from eating this time than I was the other time, and I'm like, because I probably had 2 completely different amounts of food, not like drastically different, but they were different.
Significant, yeah.
So I just think it's interesting, even on like the healthier side, when you're like actually sitting down to think about things, to like, this is better than this, but it's not like this is the greatest thing for me.
Right.
And I think that's something like I just went out and bought like a measuring scale to have at my house for like food and stuff like that because I was like curious. I'm like, how much am I actually eating of this? Because I can say like, oh, this is the serving size, so that must be how much I'm eating right here, but is that actually what it is? And then I started thinking, I was like, when you go out, you don't bring it out of scale.
Right, to measure out. Yeah, I agree.
You're like, I got this.
Right.
But I just think it's interesting that like when these thoughts start going through your head, like they have for me, it's just like all these things start like clicking into place, and you're like, oh, that's why this isn't working.
And sometimes we make it so complicated too, so just keeping it simple. I mean, it is hard. Like you said, take the scale, measure your food, know if that serving size and that scoop's the exact same. But if we're shooting just for something healthy overall, then we know it's been effective. We know if we're cutting back on carbs that just not having a piece of bread is going to be better than worrying about how much bread I have. So.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that's are really trying to educate yourself on like what's going into a food, the actual percentages inside of it. You really start looking at the labels, which is something I never used to do. I was just like, oh, this is whatever, this is healthy. Like I had no idea that in like one of the little avocados that there are like 200 calories in that avocado, but it's not like bad calories.
Right, it's a good form of calories, right?
But it's just like you don't think about those things. You're just like, oh, that's healthy, so it's got to be like low in calories and stuff like that.
It's just thinking about where those calories are coming from. It's not always worried about have to eat as little amount of calories as possible. It's where they derive from. If I eat a dinner that's 500 calories, was it like a small Whopper, or was it like lean meats like chicken breast and broccoli and like brown rice or something like that. So I think it's important to consider that as well.
Yeah, because I remember watching Gabby Hanna, who has her own YouTube channel, and she's a big YouTuber. She went through this whole like weight loss experience, and she documented it and everything. And she talked about in there how someone proposed the thing to her of, if you have a banana and a 200 calorie bag of muffins, that banana has 130 calories and the muffins have 100 calories. So some people, like, if they're just thinking of calories, are going to go
for
with
the muffin, right?
Go for
but
the
they're not
muffins.
considering the sugars and stuff like that are associated with that muffin. Now, banana is a sugary fruit, but still, you're right.
It's natural sugar.
Yeah, exactly. Very valid point.
But when she like said that, it like clicked in my head, and I'm like, that's so true, because you know, I see people all the time who they're like, oh, I'm being healthy, and they're having, like, I see people with like complete cookies all the time. I see this all the time when my friends will be eating it and they're like, oh, it's only 200 calories, but they're not actually reading where it says it's half the cookie's 200 calories,
right.
So the whole cookie's 400.
Right.
Which, like, if you're having that after like a really big workout, or like you had to like you didn't have lunch or something like that, like I would think that would be totally fine.
Yeah,
but
you're matching that deficit.
You shouldn't have it with lunch.
No.
Unless you're like, you know, working out hardcore.
Right. Or depending on, I mean, if you're trying to gain weight, then maybe. But
yeah, that too.
Definitely, I would agree.
And I just think it's so interesting, like, looking into all this stuff with, like, health and, like, fitness and things like that, because anytime I've tried, I just kind of took it at face value, and so I wasn't educating myself on any sort of thing. And, you know, everyone's got so many different perspectives, whether it's the internet, whether it's their family, whether it's their friends, they're all trying to, like, feed them information. And it's like, if you can take pieces and parts of that, because I don't want to say, like, nobody's friends and family are, like, educated on it, but nobody's a complete 100% expert on it, I feel like, unless you've, like, studied it and, like, really educated yourself in depth on it. Not like, I read this article and here's this information.
Right, yeah. And it's easy to read and see the facts, but like I said, you just have to have that firsthand experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people that kind of follow a loose keto diet and they see great results. I see some that have to follow a strict regimen of being right there, 1,500 calories to get the results they have. So, and I mean, reading is good, but you have to, like I said, just have to have that experience with it too. So.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the last thing that I want to ask you about is, what advice would you give to somebody who's really trying to make a change in their life, and they've tried all these different things like I have, and I'm sure in everybody's mind they want that quick fix, but what advice would you give someone who's really trying to make a long-term difference in their, like, lifestyle and in the choices that they're making?
Yeah, so a couple things would be, first, knowing that it's a commitment that takes time. So it's not going to change overnight, but where's my trend? Am I getting better with it? Am I getting worse with it? That's the first thing I consider. Secondly would be, you know, how disciplined and how bad do they want this to really happen? It's just like, if it happens, good. If it doesn't, then cool. Thirdly, I mean, just really maybe seeking professional help with it. Exercise is very confusing to people that don't really fully understand it as it should be. Accounting would be tough for me because I'm not an accountant. But, you know, so getting that professional help and that guidance with it. And then from there, just do it. Like, just do it, literally. And that's something I told my parents. My dad is always like, well, if I could just get in the door of the gym. I'm like, don't even, just get to the parking lot. Just put the bag in the car and get to the parking lot. Mm-hmm. Then from there, get in the gym. Then, you know, as you progress, hopefully those results will kind of drive you to keep going from there. Mm-hmm. So that would be my biggest tips to tell people.
Yeah, and especially, like, of any other time, I feel like in history, to not really have an excuse to not at least try. It's now with, like, you can find workout videos everywhere. You can find, there are tons of, like, apartment friendly ones that, like, don't require weights, like, you're doing everything with, like, your body weight. So if there's ever a time to do this, it's now.
Yeah. Or find a friend to do it with. Find, like, an accountability partner, someone that can go to the gym with you, or at least check in. Hey, did you work out today? Hey, what was your eating like today? Mm-hmm. That helps too. I mean, you know, I have people that I kind of depend on to hold me accountable as well, because on the opposite end, I'm in the gym all the time. So sometimes I don't want to be in the gym, but you know, I have friends back home like, hey, how was your workout? Or I'll see them post something online. I'm like, shoot, I'm gonna try that. So that's kind of how it keeps me rolling too.
You're like, this is gonna be my next Snapchat video.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'll put it on Snapchat or Instagram or something. But
Yeah, I'll
Definitely.
link all of his stuff in the description box just because I don't know how to edit it on the screen yet, but we'll get there one day.
Cool.
So all of his stuff's out there. Like he puts his workouts on his Snapchat and Instagram all the time.
Cool.
I always watch it, and sometimes when he goes out to eat, I'm like, hey.
Right, see? Hold me accountable. So I only post the healthy stuff that I eat, not the bad stuff. No, I'm kidding.
But I just want to thank you so much
Yeah,
for
definitely.
letting me sit down and kind of
Yep.
pick at your brain for
I've enjoyed
the
it.
last
I've
20
enjoyed it.
minutes.
I mean, this is how people learn. So, kind of getting that experience and not just reading articles from like dream stories. Oh, I lost, 20 pounds in 2 weeks. Like, that's not everybody. So just kind of seeing that whole trend and, once we get to your goal, kind of do it again would be sweet too.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. So if anybody out there would like me to do another video with Brandon, if you have more questions, let me know. And thanks again.
Sweet.
All right.
I enjoyed it. Good luck, guys.